So today we'll be talking about the art of capacity management, and we've got the incredible experts here. We've got Jackie Meyer and Tanya Iltz, and I'll just run you briefly through their profile in a bit.
Mhm. It's amazing to see how people are here from across the globe. This is amazing.
Yes. Very interesting. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, today we'll be talking about the art of capacity management for your accounting or bookkeeping firm. And we've got our expert here, Jackie Meyer, CPA, CCA. Jackie is a doctoral candidate and founder of Tax Plan IQ. And I'll just read through our profile. And having founded an award-winning CPA firm, Mayor Tax Consulting from 2010 to 2022. Jackie is now the founder of Tax Plan IQ, a service as a SaaS tax advisory platform selected for the AICPA 2023 Accelerator cohorts. She's also a coach of the Certified Concierge Accountant Mastermind and Certified Concierge Tax Accountants. She currently leads a vibrant Facebook community, which I'm a part of, of accounting firm influencers who continue these discussions daily, sharing ideas and driving change in the profession. Jackie aims to promote better health, wealth, and relationships for accountants. And with her leadership and expertise, the future of the accounting profession is bound to be bright and full of opportunities. Jackie, it's so nice to have you here.
Thank you for
Welcome.
having me. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And
Rachel,
Tanya is.
Rachel, before you move on, can you just throw your slides into presentation mode? We can see your whole.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect. Yeah, so rolling into Tanya. Tanya is a cloud accounting technology specialist. She's also the CEO and founder of Cloud Business Services and Tanya's Bookkeepers Bootcamp. Tanya is renowned for advancing accounting practices across North America through our accredited Tanya's Bookkeepers Bootcamp that is focused on the practice management side of solo and small bookkeeping firms. She's a multi-award winning accounting professional, recently honored as a top 50 accounting services practice and Women Entrepreneur Award winner in 2023. Tanya is also a respected mentor and contributor to the accounting community. It's such a great honor to have you here, Tanya. Thank you so much for making time for us with your busy
Thank you.
schedule.
It's an honor to be here.
Interesting. So now going into the details of capacity management in line with accounting and bookkeeping firms. That is what we'll be discussing today. So I'll be passing the mic to Bianca just to take over this next phase.
Thank you, Rachel. I am so happy to have Jackie and Tanya here. They're subject matter expert and their thought leadership and just reputation in North America in the accounting and bookkeeping space is just astronomical. So thank you both for all of your advancements and contributions to the community and bookkeeping profession and accounting profession as a whole. It's just so amazing. So thank you. So just housekeeping. So because the chat's not working for everybody, feel free to throw your questions in the Q&A. We're going to leave room at the end of the presentation for a fluid conversation. We're going to talk about all the things that maybe Jackie and Tanya did right and did wrong and what they're going to do different for 2024. And it's going to be a really amazing fluid conversation. So I'm going to start with, what is capacity management and why is it important? And, I think we should probably just ask our speakers. So I'll start with Tanya. If you want to just give us just a quick, I know we're going to get into the really nitty gritty of what this means for you in a minute, but high level, what does this mean for your firm and why is it a priority for you?
All right. So I was not expecting this. So this answer is not rehearsed. So it's the truth. So capacity management is really important because this is where, and we'll talk about it later if we want, I messed up. I made mistakes. I took my eye off the KPIs and I had way more staff. So we had like an overflux of capacity management. And so it hit me the other way. I invested, we did all of that, build it and they will come. They did not come. So it's extremely important to be able to have the right amount of team members that's what it means to me, the right amount of team members to service the clients, to be able to work efficiently. And if you're over capacity or under capacity, that's going to affect you negatively. So it's extremely important to make sure that you're right where you are and you know where you are at all times, so that you can properly hire in advance and make your dollars work as efficiently as possible to maximize your profits and maximize the client experience.
That's such a good, important point, and the reverse of it is like, yeah, exactly what you experience. So that's interesting. And I can't wait to get into more of that later. Jackie, how about yourself?
Yeah, I was kind of the opposite of Tanya. So as I was growing my CPA firm, I got to probably like 200% capacity per person before we ever added on. And so at the height of our firm, we were at about a dozen people. And it was really hard. There was a lot of burnout and health issues, mental, physical health issues that come from that burnout. And so I was able to kind of transform my practice around better capacity management, which is something that none of us are really taught in school or in the experience that we have day to day, but it is so vital to really, manage those resources, the time and the workload to maximize your efficiencies and client satisfaction, because we'll talk a little bit more about this in a few minutes, but clients expect more and more out of us, and they expect us to have our ducks in a row when it comes to capacity too.
Yes, absolutely. Well, why don't we use that as this perfect segue into Jackie? Why don't you start us off with your tips and tricks?
Sounds good. Yeah. So, hi, everyone. I'm Jackie Meyer. I'm in Dallas, Texas. So, we're about to kick off Thanksgiving as soon as I finish this session, but it is a pleasure to be with you today. Like I mentioned, in my own firm, I was really kind of on the brink of burnout. Started having significant mental, physical health issues around workaholism and overworking. And it's just so easy to fall into that as an entrepreneur, and especially as an accountant in our profession. And so, I had to change something. Back in 2016, I was about to have my second child, and I felt like I was going to lose it all if I didn't make significant changes. And so I hired a business coach, which I highly recommend to everyone here. And they helped me reevaluate my entire practice and figure out what's working, what's not, and how can I change things around to delegate and elevate others, but also, just have more peaceful balance in my own life. And so if you've ever felt that overwhelm of the profession, longing for kind of more freedom and impact, then you're definitely in the right place with us here today. So I'm excited to introduce this acronym called BRIGHT to you, which is how I like to think of capacity management. Now, in this rapidly changing world that we're in today, the accounting profession is evolving so quickly, especially this year with the advances in AI technology, natural language processing, chat GPT stuff, all that stuff. And a recent AI CPA survey, which is our, org that manages all the US CPAs, it revealed that 75% of business decision makers need different services from their accountants than they did just 5 years ago. And so that's really calling us for a shift from traditional reactive bookkeeping and accounting work and tax work, which was my jam, and tax advisory, to more proactive, value-driven advisory services. And so it really becomes more than the numbers itself. And so I have to say, on top of anything we talk about today in capacity management, I would encourage and hopefully inspire you to continue to look into where you can bring the biggest ROI to the table for each and every one of your clients through added advisory services to all of them in what you do, because the clients are really wanting that. And as AI kind of takes over as the baseline for us, as compliance work evolves, they're going to want more of what you have to say and think about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So I have to throw that in there. Okay, so let's dive into our BRIGHT acronym. The very first thing is B for balancing your client workload, which seems very obvious, but I want to talk about some specific kind of tips and tricks around that. So let me get to that part of my slide. Here we go. Okay, So first, I recommend that you assess and categorize your clientele. And so you can do this based on their value, the complexity of their services, or the nature of the services that they require. You could implement kind of tiers, like this is an A client, B client, C client, D client ranking system, and then actually figure out your workflow around that. And so for instance, A clients might be ones that you prioritize. Your monthly bookkeeping is always done by the 10th of the month. And then B clients is by the 15th of the month. And then C clients is by the 20th of the month. And so it's just prioritizing what they can expect from you and when. Now, I also really highly recommend offering packaged services to your clients. And so if you want an example of how I've done that in my firm, you can go to jackie.cpa/packages, and you'll see exactly the 3 different tiered packages from basic, pro, and elite that we offered at our firm. And it really was just very specifically designing the scope of what was included or not included for every client. One of those offerings, let's say as an example, was reviewing IRS notices for the client. And you can further set boundaries and define what that looks like. And by saying, okay, well, that's up to 10 hours of me reviewing IRS notices for you per year. And anything above and beyond that is out of scope, and we'd have to reassess that service. But by figuring out what those hour parameters are on the back end, you can pre-plan and pre-budget for that activity throughout the year, and then not get yourself into a crazy jam like, all the bad things that I did. So definitely recommend the packaging in regards to boundaries, and then tiering out your clients to figure out exactly how that fits into your calendar for priorities. So that's our B with the balance. And then the next thing up in our BRIGHT acronym is R for revolutionizing your tech. So definitely embracing latest technologies. By being here today, I know a lot of you probably are. Particularly though with AI and automation, it's no longer a luxury, but a necessity. And the AICPA president said something interesting about how the firm that will be left behind by AI is the one that doesn't use it. And we may not even notice it in our products and softwares, which is okay, but we should start seeing like 70-80% tremendous efficiencies with products that are utilizing this. And I know like Financial Sense has a really cool resource management and capacity management component that I'm excited to look at today, because those are the kind of tools that we need to make sure that we're automating things and simplifying things. Now, in my own Tax Plan IQ software, that's a tax advisory platform for accountants, I have a chatbot named Jane, Jaine, and she's actually helping you research and suggest tax strategies. Sorry, it's only US based for Canadians and internationals. Canada, we're going to go for you next, but probably 2025 in that one. But yeah, I mean, we're seeing 70-80% increased efficiencies by utilizing those AI tools. So ask your software vendors, what are you doing on the back end here? How are you staying ahead of the game? And by incorporating those latest technologies, you will really be on it, all over it, and on a good path. So our next letter in BRIGHT is in-state, which isn't the clearest letter in the world, but I tried. So in-state, clear deadlines and guidelines. So clear and consistent communication with your client is essential. It's about setting expectations from the outset and maintaining those throughout your engagement. So something that I see so few accountants and bookkeepers and tax people out there doing is just writing out what your guidelines are. What are your boundaries for clients? When do they need to get work to you so that you can turn it around in appropriate amounts of time? So consider launching an email or video series campaign to all of your clients in December, right? And saying, look, if you don't have your stuff in by March 1st next year, we're not going to have it done by the deadline. And then it becomes so much easier to enforce those boundaries as the year progresses, because you know that you communicated that information very early and timely. So a very simple tip that is so effective for your stress levels and the clients to know what to expect. So yeah, I would definitely do the client guidelines, and then maybe even put it all together in a beautiful like ebook package or something like that, and share it with your clients. And you could even have an onboarding meeting with clients if they're new, to go through those guidelines so that they understand how important they are to you. The next letter in our acronym is G, for guarantee a backup plan. Life happens, y'all, right? People are people, and we have to plan. For some reason, we never want to plan around people getting ill, someone having a death in the family, bad things happening. I know, Tanya, you just had an incident at QuickBooks Connect that took you out, and you didn't plan on it, but heck, if we can have a backup plan of any kind of sort when it comes to this stuff, that's always for the better. And so I encourage any accounting firm that I work with to have an outsourced company or subcontractor or somebody that you've trained a little bit in off season so that they can jump in an emergency situation during busy seasons.
Sorry, do you mind me jumping in and just saying here's something that I don't have set up? I'd love to hear your opinion on it for everybody else.
Sure.
And it's something I've talked about with some of the, like we've got Sherry Lee Mathers, who a lot of people know. She's like my bestie up here, and we do a lot of business together, but our firms are separate. Neither of us, if anything happens, we don't have the team to be able to step in and do that. So what we have talked about setting up is that she is my person and I'm her person, that they have the passwords so that they can step in. If something happens to me, she can step in and direct my team. I can step in and direct her team, something like that.
I love that.
Your thought on that?
Yeah. So actually in my trust, I have my best friend who happens to be a CPA that left, public accounting to take care of her family. She's like my go-to person when it comes to if something happened to me, I know she can step in and help because she's helped me part-time in the past at the firm. So yeah, Tanya, that's a wonderful idea. And I appreciate you bringing that up. Always have like that person you can go to. And if you don't, figure out who that can be. It doesn't have to be your best friend, right? It can be just another business that you agree, look, we both need backups here. We're solopreneurs or we're in a small firm position, and maybe this is a good fit. So yeah, I think that's really great. All right, the next letter in our acronym is harness. Harness your e-calendars. So effective time management is the cornerstone of all capacity management, right? So I like to do time blocking in my e-calendar. So I start with, okay, how many hours total do I have in my week? Let's say it's 40, okay? And let's say I know that I have 100 returns. I'm a reviewer for taxes. I have 100 returns I need to review in 100 days of busy season. That's 1 hour per day or per working day that I need to dedicate towards reviewing work, or maybe even more up front and a little bit less at the back end so that I streamline the workflow and push it up. And so you can actually back into all of your tasks and daily activities this way. I dedicate, an hour a week towards CPE, or hopefully you have certain hours you block towards working on the business instead of in the business and things like that. And so I like using ChatGPT. It'll actually help you figure out a time block schedule for you, and then you can get it plugged in. And then have these like free blocks on your calendar for the 2 hours a day that you are open to sales meetings, or the 3 hours a day that you're available for client meetings, right? And then the clients will have just those particular times they can pick from on your e-calendar and go from there. Another cool tip is if you're a tax person, you could literally have your e-cal to where people can submit like one tax return per day. And that's the day that they're promising you to have their information in. And if they pick a date after a deadline, then it's pretty obvious they're not going to get in before the deadline, and they're going to have an automatic extension. And so you really can micromanage that stuff to the T and do some pretty neat things. So last on our list, and then I want to hand off to Tanya because I know she has some really cool stuff to talk about. The T in Bright is tally. So just tallying and reflecting on issues, continuous improvement. It is so essential to track and document any challenges or issues as they arise during your busier times. And then have a debrief after a big project or after a busy season with your team, whether that's just you or maybe that, your best friend that you like to help hold accountable to things, or other members on your actual team. But you need to spend some strategic time thinking through what went well, what didn't go well, how to improve. And then you will be able to continuously get better and better in the future. So those are my tips for capacity management. I definitely encourage you to pick at least one of those strategies that you can maybe implement before year end, and then continue to think about others that you can do as well. And that should prepare you for a really, really nice 2024.
Awesome.
Bianca or Tanya?
Yeah.
No,
that's awesome. And you know what, Jack? Those were so amazing tips. And the funny thing is, Jackie and I did not coincide our presentations at all, but my tips all are basically kind of the same as yours, just worded differently, which,
awesome.
Tells me that there's some importance to it, right? Absolutely. So like my tips, I've got a few tips, and you know what? I will say I used ChatGPT to help come up with these things. It's ChatGPT. If you haven't used it, it's great. But definitely, like as Jackie said, use it in your business. Go in and find some things. It can build an outline. It can emails. It can all of this stuff, and will help you become more efficient. Absolutely. So that's not actually in here, but I just wanted to confirm that.
Sure.
So yeah. So I've just got become a task-driven firm. We are all about tasks. It works just so much better with tasks, because something has to tell me what to do, whether it be an email, a phone call, a task that we've got scheduled, within our task management process, which Financial Sense does a great job on that, something. So become task-driven, so that way it can tell you what to do, and create scalable processes. Get it out of your head. When life happens, there's nobody else that can do that for you. Whether it be on your level of things or one of your team members, you need to get everything out of your head, get it on their down process for our American friends, process for Canadian friends, but it also needs to be scalable. Plan and prepare for payroll. Absolutely. Payroll is the one thing. There's no emergencies in bookkeeping, except for when it comes to payroll. We all know that's the one exception. So that needs to be planned for, especially when you've got holidays, long weekends, Thanksgiving, anything that's going to affect the timing to get the payroll in. You've got to be able to plan ahead for that, and time block back in your calendar and streamline AR and AP. So those are my 4 main tips, and we're going to get into a little bit about how I do those. And what we've got. And so this way you guys don't also have to worry about taking notes. It's all going to be here on the slides. And I do believe you guys get the slides as well afterwards. So concentrating on specific tasks allow for better execution. So, think about it. If you're in one file and you're working on their file and you're going through, how often does it happen where, the phone will ring or an email will come in or somebody will come up behind you and ask you a question to get back into it. So again, using a strategy like time blocking, specific tasks, in that row to help keep things for better efficiency and effectiveness. So our next slide. Yeah, there we go. So thank you, Rachel. So a task-driven approach helps prioritize the crucial tasks and allocate resources effectively. So when we do that, we actually do have them highlighted, because some things, and we actually work with inbox zero. Inbox zero doesn't necessarily mean all our work is being done. It means it's being reviewed. So that means when an email comes in, do we, and I know Justin had done the same, had mentioned he does the same thing that we do. He sets certain times a day to review the emails. Again, otherwise you get pulled out and it takes so long to get back into what you were doing. So block that out. When you look at it, can you respond to it immediately? Does it need to be responded to, or is it just simply a task that's due next week or tomorrow that you can then get out of your email, get on your task? So our inbox zero is basically, we want all of our emails taken care of or prioritized. And then when anything that's moving to a task, again, inbox zero does not mean that we have to have all of the work done. It just means we're reprioritizing. So there might be some things that are not as important that I had scheduled today, that if something takes me over, I can just take it and move it to the next day. So if you're working like that and prioritizing, makes things a lot easier. So scalability. As your client base grows, a task-driven model actually allows for easier onboarding and your service expansions, and it keeps things nice and easy for the team, because you can just sit there, create the new client in your practice management system, duplicate your tasks, make a couple of changes that are unique, maybe unique to that client, and then you can move on. You're not creating whole new flows all over again. And then it also makes it easier for the team to be able to work with that. Accountability. Using task-driven models makes it easier to assign the responsibility to your team, making them more accountable for their own work. So again, we have it in there. We do the hit by the bus routine that basically, if, knock on wood, nobody gets injured, but if somebody did tomorrow, anybody who does not know our practices could step in and do this. So yes, some of our tasks some people might look at it and say, well, that's a little micromanaged. I already know this, but I can't assume that they know this. So again, having that set up makes things a lot easier for that. And the individual team member now knows exactly what they're accountable for, because it's actually in there. So when they tick it off, you expect that to be done. Client satisfaction, task-driven. When the clients are involved in it, maybe not involved in the individual task, but maybe we let them know, we will have your reports out to you. We'll close your books on this day of the month. Your reports will be to you on this day of the month. As Jackie had said, this is when we need your tax information to be in to be able to meet the deadline. If you have that task-driven model with the clients on what they need to know, it offers transparency and predictability. And again, they know exactly what to expect and when to expect it. Makes life a lot easier. Good fences make good neighbors. Okay, and cost effectiveness. Streamlining tasks can reduce redundancies, saving both time and money. And that's huge. So you want definitely for that. Risk mitigation. A structured approach allows for tasks for better risk assessment and quality control measures. Again, if everything is, being the same expectations, the same everything you're duplicating, nothing is going to get missed. Nothing is going to fall off the truck or fall off the wagon, whatever, because life does happen. So if you've got that, and again, something happens, somebody else can step in and just take over and know exactly where it is, which lowers your risk, the risk for the bad quality control, better assessment, better for the team, better for the client. Absolutely. Okay, and flexibility. So breaking work into tasks allow for easier adjustments if scopes change or if you need to adapt to a client's evolving needs. Maybe, scope has changed and you're like, okay, well, I can do that, but I can't fit this in until this time. Again, just like Jackie said, do the calendar blocking, the task blocking. That will make everything a lot easier. And again, if the client knows, hey, this out of scope task, we'll get to it, but I'm not going to schedule it until here, so give us until this. Again, you're now looking at transparency and the clients know what to expect. Okay. Now we're going to get into some details of the more important stuff. So it's all stuck in my head. I don't know how many of us will admit it, but I know I still have things stuck in my head that I need to get out. And I've been working on it for years. I've got most of it out, but every time I think it's all out, something comes up and it's like, oh yeah, only I do that. That's still stuck in my head. So we need to get it out of our head so that, again, should anything happen, somebody else can step in. So how we do that is on the next slide. So use software like Loom, Otter AI, Scribe. There are so many different screen recording and transcription softwares out there. So when I'm working with the accounting professionals that I coach, the biggest feedback that I get, or the biggest excuse, response, reason, whatever we want to call it, as to why they can't even delegate a task to something. They say, well, it's in my head and it's just going to take me too long to train somebody to do it right. I just can't take that time. It's quicker for me to do it. So if you're using software like Loom, Otter AI, Scribe, any of that, screen recording, transcription software, something like that, what you do is record it when you're doing it. So that way you're doing it the first time, slow yourself down 20, 25%. So that way you're speaking clearly. So when it transcribes the right words and the right phrases, which means less time to edit that. And then because your team member can always speed you up, but you've got that. So now you have a recorded step-by-step process. It's transcribed to be able to do that. And now you've got pictures, recording, you've got everything so that anybody can step in. So when I do those and I create ours, I take like when I did a cleanup, our cleanup process, I took the biggest, ugliest cleanup file that we had. And that's what I used to create the process, because anything is going to be easier and it covered everything in there. So now anybody can step in, anybody can take over following that same process. So you're going to record the screen while you're talking the steps out loud and while you're actually doing the work. Be sure to enunciate and do not speak too fast. Anybody that's tried to use any of the transcription software that uses QBO should have hopefully noticed by now that QBO does not come out the letters QBO. It types in the word QBO, spelled QUBIO. So you need to catch that. So again, be sure to enunciate. Don't speak too fast. And then tip 3, edit your transcription and you are good to go. We've just got the 4th step is you now have a scalable process for the next person to follow with steps, pictures, and a video to illustrate. Payroll, plan for delays, not just on us, not just around holidays, around the client. So how do we do that? If the software is expected Tuesday by noon, just as an example, for us, we have the client report it to us 9 a.m. Monday morning. The reason why we do that, a team member could be off, the internet could be down, there could have software issues. We plan for contingencies in there, delays from a client. Now, I am going to preface this and throw this out there. If the client gets it to us delayed, we do charge them for late payroll. Now, if they get it to us at 9:05, they are charged, I want to say $50. Sandra does that, but I want to say $50 for a late payroll. The reason being, even if it's 9:05 Monday morning, the reason being is it might be 9:05, then it's 9:10, then it's 9:20. It'll constantly change. And then that way, again, if we've got somebody who's off or, we've got a holiday, we're running double payrolls. Now that kind of impacts our effectiveness for that. So we make sure that we have that because we need the client to know there are repercussions to their actions of not getting it to us ahead of time. So make sure you plan properly for that. And here's your setting expectations. Implement a late payroll fee for those client delays. It throws your day off. And if you allow it, so the first time we actually do usually allow it, let them know there is a late payroll fee. We allow it once without the charge, but we let them know. Second time forward, we absolutely charge. We've had 2 clients do it once each. That's it. Never, ever late again, because it's going to hit them in the pocketbook and they don't want to. So everything that we do, we give them a way to do it without extra charges, but they also have to have that consequence because that impacts us. And a lot of us don't do that. So make sure that you're doing that. Clients need to know the repercussions. Again, that comes with, nice, clear, transparent procedures. But it'll absolutely help for you to get your work done, which means that you can be helping the client better. Okay, and then automate processes and payments. So you automate reminders to clients using your CRM. We've got a link to a Google Sheet that we just have them enter into the Google Sheet. We go from there. So we've got that automatically scheduled to go to the client. It's the exact same wording, same everything, but that way it goes out to them and it goes out 2 days before it's due. So it gives them plenty of time to be able to work with that. You can use auto run to auto run salary. There's a lot of stuff that you can do to automate. So again, going back to what Jackie said, use that, take advantage of the tech, automate, automate, automate. All right, accounts receivables. Let's do this all together. Say no to manual AR. No, none of us want this. This is the biggest pain that we have. So have them set up on PADs, which is pre-authorized debits. ACH, I believe, is the US version, or a credit card, automatic whenever possible to minimize your AR. Next slide is simplify the customer payment process. If somebody is not paying you on time, it's not necessarily because they don't have the money. They could just forget. It's not easy for them. If you make it easy, they'll pay. And so, at the credit card, if you're using, just click to pay, enter the bank information. So with us, every client we take on, it is automatically withdrawn from their bank account. That's it. That's our fees come out, because then that way I know it's going to come out. Everything's automated on my end. It's automated on their end, makes life a lot easier. Okay. And follow up. It is so easy for us to not follow up on our AR list. We don't want to make those awkward phone calls. They're awkward. That's all there is to it. But we can automate the invoice reminders. If that does not work, you should 10 to 14 days follow up with a phone call. Do not finish that call without a promise to pay. So Sandra, one of my team members, has an AR background. So she brought that to the team, all of that, and make sure you've got that promise to pay. Then how can you make it easier for the client next time? So that's automate it. That's going to be the easiest way for that. As the last case scenario, if you do decide to write it off, you can send the debt to a collections agency and just pay a percentage of what's collected when it's collected. Not a lot of people knew that's how the collections agencies work. Some work on flat fees, some work on hourly, but you can find some that work based on what's collected, and you can do that. But really, you don't want to be writing everything off. You want to be getting everything automated. And then once you've got everything automated, that's something you can teach to a lot of our clients as to how to automate their AR as well. And finally, our accounts payable, say no to manual AP. Nobody likes manual AP either. Excuse me. So same thing. Set that up for automatic payments whenever possible. Next slide is simplify your vendor payment process. There are tools such as Pluto, who is here today, one of the vendors that you can use to automate that. So let's make it easy to make those payments. You can have approval processes built in, which I highly recommend the approval processes. Pluto's approval process is beautiful. From the back end, I've experienced it from, both sides, and it's absolutely beautiful. So you can do that, takes liability off of you, helps you to be able to do that manual, get that going with your clients, which makes our life easier, one less thing to worry about. So those were my tips on how to do those. I think we're going to pass it over to Rachel, because I think we've got a poll now. Rachel or Bianca?
Yeah, Rachel, launch the poll if you...
Yeah, we're launching a poll in a minute now. Yes. And also, if you have any questions for Tanya or Jackie, you can drop them in the chat, or you can also drop them in the Q&A box. So I think we have some questions now. Bianca, do you want to go through them, or you have more questions?
Yeah, let's answer a couple while people are answering the poll. Great idea.
Okay.
All right, Katie, this is a question for Tanya. When you have step-by-step processes and documents, like in financial sense, for example, have you run into any difficulties with team members following those processes because the structure is not their typical way of learning? So an example of this is Katie recently hired. She said she recently hired in a very specific, what she thinks is specific tasks, and all the steps required in the workflow, and her team doesn't seem to want to follow them. So do you have any tips for that?
I do. I experienced that. When we grew to build it so they will come, we outsourced, and they had things done their way. So definitely make sure that whether you have a hire, you're outsourcing, whatever, that they need to be aware that they are accountable for the tasks they tick off, saying they've completed them as it's done. Now, what I've done to help with the accountability, which was kind of difficult, but I come from a more corporate background. So I was trying to find a way to put it in there. And so what we did is we don't do annual or quarterly reviews. The employee does it on themselves, the team member. They do, and we dropped this with the other team, but I've learned. And so everybody, no matter whether you're outsourced or insourced or whatever, you're going to be doing this every quarter, a quarterly review. And within that quarterly review, have they completed the tasks as requested? They now have to say yes. Are they being honest of a 1 to 5? And then I come back and say, yes, I agree you did that. Or yeah, you know what? No, you didn't. There's also what I would heavily set up is because I was not aware, because again, I took my eye off the ball. I was not aware that they were ticking it off and not doing it until year-end time came, or until something came up and I'm like, hang on, this was supposed to be done. So we are revising our processes. And when we get back into growth mode again, we are going to have one person who is quality assurance, who is going to be using one of the softwares that we let these other people use to do the review. We're going to be doing that, have our QA person essentially, or a bookkeeping services manager do that review. That way we can kind of catch it, but they need to understand that you're paying them to follow your processes and do it the way that you want to be done. So that is just going to require a little bit of a heavy hand, but there's nice ways to do it. Does that help, Katie? I hope that helped. I know it found with me, like I say, just throwing that accountability in and the review and us actually doing it and coaching back in a nice way, right? You're going to coach them back and just say, you know what? I know this is probably the way that you've done it there, but this is how we do it here.
I have one little tip that I might add that could help mitigate any issues before they happen, Katie, and that is to almost incorporate an accommodation sort of questionnaire in your onboarding process when you're hiring staff. So if your employees may feel like they need special accommodations in order to do the work a certain way because of a learning, or neurodivergency or anything that they have or would appreciate to help empower them to do their job better, having that built into your onboarding process as a question could really help build employee retention and help your processes and task management get stronger.
And you know what? Thank you, Bianca. That's actually a great idea. I never even thought about that. Maybe they're not reading because that reading is too much for them, and maybe they're partially dyslexic, so they're going back to the normal way, whereas maybe some pictures included in the process might help them understand. I never even thought about that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, cool. I'm going to end the poll, and I'm going to move on to a couple of the product slides, and then we'll get into more questions and conversations at the end, if that's okay. Okay. Let's move on. If you could go to the next slide, Rachel, that would be great. Okay, so we've got, the app pack consists of Pluto, Financial Sense, and Wagepoint. We've all teamed up to bring industry experts and relevant topics to the community. And so, of course, we want to let everyone know what our products do and how they're going to empower you guys and your businesses. So there's information here on how Pluto is going to help your business. And as well, on the next slide, there'll be all the contact information if you wanted to reach out to Pluto and get any more information. Next slide, please, Rachel. There's Pluto's information. And next, okay, Wagepoint payroll. This is my wheelhouse. All right, Wagepoint, making your payroll workflow work for you. Well, Wagepoint has many features that simplify payroll processing. Here are some that I thought I should highlight for this audience, as they are very relevant to the topic today. And that's, every Wagepoint partner gets access to a partner dashboard where you can manage all of your clients' payroll needs from one source, which is great. You have the ability to save time. Nobody wants to chase down documents, because with Wagepoint, you can delegate and customize both the employee and client onboarding experiences. Oh, Katie, thanks for the kind words. You love Wagepoint. Yeah. Okay, so we've got some brand new features with our enhanced new Wagepoint 2.0, and this is one of them, effective dating. So make changes without impacting your current values and settings. Like, how important is it to like not have to wait till midnight? The clock strikes midnight on a certain day to, make a setting for employee change and their pay rate is mid-cycle, and then having to retroactively, change those values for them. So now you can actually set an effective date and have things happen automatically on a certain day. You can set it and forget it and do it while the task comes across your desk. So it's great. Never miss a deadline. We've got a built-in payroll calendar with all your clients' payroll and banking deadlines. So huge on topic today. Wagepoint will automatically file your year-end documents, T4s, T4As, and RO1s. And really, really important, and near and dear to me is, I don't know if most people know this, but payroll fraud often comes through employees' email inboxes. So let Wagepoint distribute pay documents very securely using an employee portal. So that's super important. Stop emailing pay information, please. I'm begging, I'm begging and begging. And on the topic of security, Wagepoint partners are also in control because they have the ability to customize role delegation for all levels of users and permissions, which is super important. And lastly, as Tanya and Jackie have both mentioned, automation. Automate the payments is such an important tool, for managing a firm's capacity. Wagepoint handles payments for direct deposit, source deduction, employer taxes, as well as for all contractors. So that's super awesome. And next slide is Wagepoint's contact information. Feel free to reach out. We also have products for a light HR solution called People by Wagepoint and a time tracking geofence for Time by Wagepoint. So if you want any of that information, please reach out there. And then I'll hand off the next slide to Rachel to speak to. And I think actually Ryan is here. I'm sorry, he wasn't here earlier. So we can go back to the Pluto slides in a minute.
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Ryan. Sorry, I didn't see you earlier on the attendee list. So perfect.
No worries. I was a bit late. I apologize. And then I've been having trouble with Zoom. It crashed on me. So yeah, just not my day. But if anyone has questions about Pluto, I'm obviously here. You can reach out to me after on LinkedIn or just ryan@pluto.com. But thanks, Bianca.
All right. Thank you so much, Ryan. So moving on to financial sense, it's interesting because today we're talking about capacity management, right? So FC has got quite a lot of features that actually speaks to capacity management, and one of the benefits of this is you can get like a quick overview of your team's workload capacity, so you know how to like manage resources more effectively, which is actually a big deal. You know what your team members are working on part time. You know what to assign to them, and this is actually a big deal for accountants and bookkeepers. And another thing with the capacity management feature is that you can set capacity limits for your staff members. Say you want them to work on like maybe 4 hours on a particular project or 2 hours on a particular project. You get to determine how long and how well they should work on each of these tasks that you've assigned to them. And another benefit is that you can see exactly how many hours over capacity your team is. Burnout is a big deal. Burnout is real. It's close to the end of the year. Everybody wants to relax and rest, right? So this gives you the chance to just see how well you're doing, how far you've gone on each task, and how well your team members are performing as well. And also, once you notice that, let's say one of them are like overworking themselves on a particular task, you can reassign that work to someone else, which is a big deal and saves time and saves energy as well. And the final one, which is actually a big deal, is that Financial Sense now has Canadian pricing. This is one of the things that we've been getting questions on, and it's finally here. So to Canadians, bookkeepers or accountants that are on this call, we now have Canadian pricing. This helps to stay compliant with the laws in Canada, everything you need. Seamless integrations with some of the apps like a Smart Vault, QBO. So it makes your job really easy and smooth. And if you have any questions, contact details are here. You can also schedule a demo or sign up for a 14-day free trial. And yeah, that's it. So we'll go back to the questions that we have. I think we have like 2 or 3 more questions at the
Yeah,
moment.
let's jump back on, ladies. We've got a couple more questions, so let's talk about them. And obviously this one, because we've got Tanya who's in Canada and Jackie who's in the US. You know, Katie would like to know, and I'm sure everybody here would like to know, you know, what you use for auto AR. I mean, I know we have got Pluto on hand here, and they're an amazing AR tool for automatically collecting payments from clients. But I want to know, like, what other processes or, you know, tools do you have in place?
Well, okay, I'll start real fast. So we actually, when we send our e-engagement letter to clients, we would collect their ACH information at that point, and then we would auto draft just directly through QBO or, you know, Zero. Most of those platforms can do that now. But yeah, I mean, using a tool like Pluto is going to be a really great way to handle that as well. Tanya, any other thoughts?
No, we're the same, but just sorry, there's that going. I don't know where that's coming from. Okay, we'll keep trying. Sam's
Good.
gone. Okay. So no, we just do the same thing when we send out our engagement to be signed. Immediately after is where we sign them up to be able to start pulling the money automatically out of their account. And if there's any out of scope work, we'll just add that, you know, get their permission and add that onto their next invoice. Anybody that's kind of like some one-off, like our tax clients or whatever, that's just set up so they can click to pay by credit card.
Another really good tip that I did for like a smaller firm that maybe, you know, doesn't have a systems in place to control a lot of accounts receivable is I used to always make sure I paid myself when the payroll approvals were going through. So that it had to get approved with everybody. So that was always a really good tip that I would have for that purpose for the smaller firms. All right. So,
Sorry,
well,
I think sorry, Katie asked, but how do you do that? So I think like with Pluto, just because they're here, you can just automatically, if I'm correct, Ryan, please correct me if I'm wrong though, but you can just automatically, like it can send to the client automatically, they type it in, they confirm it, and it's collected. Is that right?
Yeah. So when you're setting up the collection, you just want to have there's a pre-authorized debit option there. And as long as you check that off the first time, they'll get an agreement, they can agree to it. And then future ones will be automatically collected. They'll still get a notification like, hey, this money's going to get pulled, but there's no work for them to do. We'll collect their banking information through that process, and they can choose to store it encrypted on our end, so then they don't have to worry about re-entering it or anything like that. So really automates the AR side, but still keeps them up to date with those email notifications, so they know what money's moving.
And building it into your engagement with your client right from the get-go, like right when you start engaging and doing business with your clients, is also very, very important. Like Tanya said, it's always awkward to have those conversations after the fact. So have them ahead of time.
Like some of the worst experiences in my practice were those conversations, right?
Yeah, exactly. So building it right into your client engagement, client renewals, you know, your quarterly reviews, when you have opportunities to like implement new technology and you know, and just grow the conversations with your clients and how they're going to scale. You know, because that's, if you get it right from before the work happens, it makes it so much, the expectations are better for everybody. Excellent. Okay, so we've got Linda here. For any solo practitioners, any tech stack recommendations that have just launched this year? What's new? What new bells and whistles are you looking at? What new shiny new apps do you have on your radar?
Well, I, of course, have to advocate for TaxPlan IQ because that's my app. But I mean, if you go to actually taxplaniq.com, we have a resources page where I list all my favorite apps. And so you might be able to see some of the stuff that we like to use at my firm. You know, we were a smaller firm. Tanya, what about you?
Wow, like this year apps, you know what? Like, I mean, there's like Chat GPT, but I think that was a last year one. Maybe it's this year. So I would say absolutely look into using that, regardless if it was last year or this year. It's so important from, hey, how do I respond to this email? Like it helps with things. So it's a tool. I don't use it to write my stuff, but I use it to help. So one way that it's really helped me, especially that it could help solos, is if you've got a client who sent you something and instead of hitting respond right away, like I usually start an email without their to name, and it takes me 3 days to work through my process from, you know, all the curse words all the way down to something professional that I'd actually said.
Right.
I actually get to use Chat GPT to throw it in once, and I say, make this short, sweet, and professional.
Yeah.
And it gives it back. And I'm like, oh, this is great. So from something like that to even cutting back the time that we're reviewing the financials. So if there's something that we want to add in there when we send their financials, we can take 10 minutes and review it and type something up, or you can take all of it except for the company name, leave that out, copy it, paste it in there and say, you know, write a summary on this, and it'll write a really nice summary. And then that way you're just reviewing and editing. So at the end of the day, using Chat GPT, and I'm not using it as effectively as I should be, it's probably saving me an hour a day that I can put that time elsewhere.
Yeah, for sure. Linda, I'd also recommend, you know, going to the Facebook groups and online communities like Jackie's, and there's also Workflow Watering Hole. There's also Tanya's
Bookkeepers Corner group.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Bookkeepers Corner group. That's the big one that's for global.
Yeah, no doubt. And asking those questions there where people are actively using those products and getting the recommendations and referrals in those groups is so important. So I would recommend doing that as well.
You know, I'm actually creating a little cheat sheet ebook on using Chat GPT, and I put in like this whole prompt for time blocking. I will forgive the ugliness of it because it's only like 4 pages so far, but if anyone wants it, I'll pop it in the chat and y'all feel free to swipe and deploy whatever you like.
Yes, you're getting yes, yes, yes. I would love that. All right. Heloise, I hope I'm saying that correctly. When will 2.0 roll out for existing clients? So Heloise, if you're an existing partner with Wagepoint, you can actually open a new account in Wagepoint, and you'll have one in each, and you can onboard brand new clients to Wagepoint using the new 2.0. Existing clients are going to be merged over in the new year. So more details about that are coming out. We're working on a big, awesome migration tool that's going to make it super seamless. So that's going to happen in Q1 or 2 in early next year. So hopefully that helps answer that for you. Katie, is there someone at Financial Sense that can assist with properly setting up and tracking a capacity management report? I don't feel like I'm using it effectively.
So yes, Katie, definitely. We have our team. The customer success are available. The sales team are available to help you set it up, and we'll definitely reach out to you after this call to set up a meeting, and they will show you how you can use it more effectively. Yeah.
Wonderful. And I think that's a wrap. We got through our questions and we're right on time. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think we're good. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Tanya, for sharing from your wealth of wisdom and experience. It's so great to have both of you here. Thank you so much. And to everyone, thank you so much for joining. Yeah, a recording will be shared after this call, so you can catch up on anything you might have missed. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.